Hi everyone, this is Olga Matt, building the future of contracts from home. And today I am with my very good friend, Neil. Neil, introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, I'm Neil Greenbaum. I'm a transactional attorney. I focus primarily on corporate and commercial real estate transactions and contracts. And I've been doing this for quite a while. I'm admitted and have offices in Florida and New York.
You have an interesting career. You were in-house at some point. You're now in private practice. Tell me what you did in-house, and then tell me how it is different from private practice.
So in-house, I worked for a real estate development company during before 2008. So when money was flowing and things were easier to do. And the big difference for me, private practice versus in-house, is that in private practice, especially if I'm a solo and I'm gonna keep everything kind of lean, it's basically I eat what I kill. And the problem with being a solo to me is that I have to market myself and then actually do the work after I get the work. And I mean, thankfully, I do a good job doing the marketing, and then I do a good job doing the work. But it's kind of a dual job, because not only am I selling myself, but then once I've sold myself and I get paid to do something, I have to actually do it. So it's kind of like duplicative in a regard. When you're in-house, you're not selling anything. All you're doing is doing the work they have. So, and I tend to be more of a fast worker and an efficient person. So I would tend to have more downtime unless things were, it was a crazy time. When it comes to private practice, even if, let's say I have a clear plate in the morning, there's always something I can do for my practice to build it, be it, go on LinkedIn or market myself or call people or whatever it is. So to me, the big difference is private practice is basically like running a small business. And I think as an attorney, you have to run it like a small business, or else you're going to get into trouble, because unfortunately, they don't teach business skills in law school, but being that so many attorneys are small or solo attorneys and running their own firms, I think it's imperative that they understand certain business skills that they're going to need in order for their firm to be successful.
So let's talk about in-house adventures first.
Yeah.
What was the best part? Like, what do you miss the most now that you're in private practice about being in-house?
If you just purely like to practice law and just do the work, let's say draft contracts, negotiate contracts, that's what in-house, that's the best part of in-house, because you're not actually, the work is there and you're just called upon for the most part. I mean, you give advice, but you're mostly called upon to make sure the work gets done. So if we were acquiring an asset, I'd negotiate the contract or draft the contract and then take part in the due diligence and in the closing, because we did mostly condo conversions. We'd buy multifamily properties and then we'd file condo docs and convert them to condominiums and sell them to end users. But with regard to private practice, it's a lot more involved in terms of the business aspects and the marketing. It's not just purely doing the work.
How did you make a transition to go to private practice? That's a big decision. I made a few transitions, and this is one of those things where you probably paused and thought about various options. How did you end up doing that?
I was at the stage where it was after the economic downturn, and I figured like if I had been in private practice early on in my career with somebody else, not by myself. And then after that, I went to work at firms and in-house. And I figured like this was the time. I'd been in-house for a while, and it was something I wanted to try. And just between the economy and my wanting to do it, it worked out well at the same time.
I love your T-shirt.
This one, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of T-shirts, and my wife does not like any of them.
So tell me what's up with the T-shirts?
So it's like a shtick that I did not mean to do. So, all right. So,
and for the listeners, if you're not watching the video, Neil has this fabulous T-shirt that says "I heart contracts," and he has many T-shirts that speak for themselves. And I specifically like this one because I love heart contracts too. But also, I'm asking a larger question about this thing with T-shirt that he has going on.
Yeah, so I do a lot of videos on LinkedIn, and I used to film them. I wake up early in the morning. I used to film them like at 5 a.m. So when I film them, I'd wear a T-shirt. I'm not getting dressed up. That was 5 a.m. I'm home. This is pre-COVID. I'd be home. I wouldn't go to the office. So I started filming them with T-shirts, and it just became this thing. And then I remember a lawyer, a friend of mine, reached out to me and he said he didn't think it was appropriate that I was wearing T-shirts as an attorney, that I should probably be better dressed. So then I did a video where I wore a T-shirt and I had a tie on. And I discussed, besides the legal issue, I discussed, like, if I'm dressed a certain way, do you perceive me different? Like, if I give the same advice and I'm wearing a tie, or I'm well dressed in a suit, you say, oh, this guy's a genius. But if I'm wearing a T-shirt, you're like, who is this idiot? If the advice is the same. And it just became a thing. So then, like, I just started wearing more T-shirts, and that's like my thing now, I guess. So
tie or T-shirt?
It was kind of accidental. It just happened.
So tie or T-shirt?
I like T-shirts better. I mean, especially, listen, I've been dressing like this for a while now, and pre-COVID, and since COVID, like, anything's acceptable. So, like, T-shirts are fine.
And let's be clear. Does it actually affect your legal advice?
No, it does not.
Okay.
Actually, if I'm more comfortable, the work's going to get done, more efficiently. So
actually, you give better advice in a T-shirt than a tie.
Advice with T-shirts, yes.
Okay, I love.
The good thing about wearing T-shirts in the videos is that if I have Zoom calls with people, I'm wearing a T-shirt. They're not like, it doesn't jar them. Like, oh, okay, that's what he wears.
I just want to set the record straight that your advice is better with a T-shirt. So there you go, everyone. Now you know, if you don't get Neil with a T-shirt, you're not getting the optimal advice. So you mentioned LinkedIn. I've been a follower of you on LinkedIn. I am kind of, I guess, a groupie. So among many others. So let's talk about your LinkedIn adventures. How did you get into that?
I only became active on it July 2019. I don't remember. I was with somebody and they were going to some kind of event, like a LinkedIn Live kind of event. It was in New York. It was in Brooklyn. And I went, and then somebody threw down the gauntlet there that we should do 30 videos in 30 days. And I'd never done one video ever in X amount of years. So I said, okay, I'll try to do 30 videos in 30 days. And I did. I posted 30 videos in 30 days, and it started, it kickstarted something. Probably in the last year, I put up 250 videos or more. But it's funny, I went back and I always, if you look at those original videos, they are cringeworthy. They are terrible. I talk like a robot, and they're long and whatever. I've learned a lot along the way. Practice makes perfect. So I think videos, it's funny, videos don't do well on LinkedIn compared to written posts. So you're not going to get nearly as many views, or you might not get as many comments, but definitely not get as many views. However, the big difference, and the reason I do video and I try to throw out a few videos a week, is if you do video, people think they know you. Okay, so if you're in Manhattan or maybe in LA, in Manhattan, I bump into people who are famous all the time. You always see famous people, and it's always out of context. Like, oh, I know that guy. And then you realize who it is. Okay, fine. So, but when you see somebody that you've seen on TV or in the movies, you think you know them. So that's why, like, movie stars a lot of times, or celebrities, don't like to be approached because they don't know who you are. They get scared. But when I'm on, and I'm not a celebrity, I'm not making that comparison. But when I do video on LinkedIn and people call me afterwards, they have this, it's like a soft lead. Like, they feel they know who I am because they've seen me 100 or 200 times. So when they speak to me, they have a comfort level they wouldn't have from reading, 500 written posts. That's why I do video.
Love it. So 30 days. Was it hard? The 30 days of video? It's
terribly hard. It's hard now. Videos, it's hard to do video. You have to think what to say. You have to say it. You have to. It's not. Look, LinkedIn's not easy, but it's most of my marketing. My business comes from two places. It comes from referrals, and it comes from LinkedIn. And the LinkedIn took a while. It's funny. LinkedIn took a while, but once it caught on, it caught on well. But I don't have a marketing budget per se, so I spend some time doing it. That's where I look at it. But it's not easy. It's difficult, and it takes time sometimes.
So what helped you to get through those 30 days? I mean, it sounds like it got easier, but it was really difficult in the beginning. So what helped you? The 30-day challenge is something, I've seen a few people do it, but tell me what helped you to get through it.
Well, first of all, it was a challenge. So a challenge is always good because you always have a goal and there's an end to the challenge, right? Though I don't think I stopped doing consecutive videos till I was like 50 or so. And then I took a day off or something. First of all, the challenge itself is helpful, but also, like, I saw that first of all, there were not a lot of attorneys doing videos then. There aren't that many now. There are a few. But I felt that something that could differentiate me from the rest of the people, the rest of the attorneys or anyone else out there is just by doing video. Because if you do video consistently, it gives you that, not that I was building a brand. I didn't even know what I was doing at the time, basically. But what I was doing was it gives that familiarity. And I wanted people to know who I was. And I think my personality comes across on video. It's hard to have personality come across on a written post or an article. It just doesn't happen.
Let's talk about familiarity. And when people watch you, they feel like they know you. And it leads to this, as you described, soft lead. Tell me why it is so important to get a soft lead.
I'm going to give you what I consider, and I think if LinkedIn heard this story, they would make a commercial out of it or something. You get notified if you've been tagged or somebody mentions your name. So I noticed that I had a few tags, and I went, and somebody who was not a first connection of mine, so I would not have seen their post otherwise, had asked about somebody who can do certain business contracts. And there were 8 responses, 8 comments to the post. And 2 comments were each an attorney saying me, and 6 other people said my name. 6 out of 8 people said my name, and I don't know any of these people personally. I did not know them before LinkedIn. So the person who posted that and sees Neil Greenbaum 6 out of 8 times, well, that says something. That gives a kind of validity that you can't get otherwise. And what happened, in that situation, I wound up getting that client, and I still have that client, and that client's done very well by me. And it never would have happened had 6 people not said Neil Greenbaum when somebody's looking for a contracts attorney. And those 6 people would not have known that I do that unless they saw me on LinkedIn, which I'm on all the time. So one thing I just want to get to, what's really important about something like LinkedIn or any kind of social media or any kind of branding, and I'm not a branding expert by any stretch of the imagination, is it's important for people not just to know like that you're a lawyer. Okay, I'm a lawyer. Great. All right. But to know exactly what you do. Because if people don't know what you do, they can't use you or refer you. So I say, I see people on LinkedIn all the time, and I don't have that many followers. I have less than 10,000. I'm pretty selective on my connections. I don't pick everybody who comes on. But the thing is that I see people out there with like 20, 30, 50,000 connections or followers, whatever it is. And I don't even know what they do. I see their face. I can pick their face out of a crowd, and I know their name. I have no clue what they actually do. So if you don't know what somebody actually does, it's hard to give them business or refer them business. So with me, I always try to hit home, I do transactions and I do contracts. So that hopefully it resonates. So when people think of those things, they think of me. Because in turn, listen, I have people call me about employment issues or personal injury. I don't do those things. I think I even did a video once, if you get into an accident, don't call me. If you have one phone call because you're arrested, don't call me. I don't do those things. I can't help you. So I think it's important that not only people know who you are and that I'm a lawyer, but what I do in particular so they can come to me for those things.
So how do you make sure, and that, this is educating your prospective clients, whether you're in-house at a law firm, anywhere really, is important. So doing it on LinkedIn, how do you make sure people are very clear what Neil does?
Every once in a while I tell them, which is very important to remind people about things, okay? A lot of my content is geared towards certain things. It's geared towards contracts. It's like I always say, get it in writing. Don't rely. I made up this quote. Those who rely on a handshake deal will ultimately, resort to some other kind of hand gesture between the parties. That's what happens. It's so I try to hit home these things. No, you're going to business with your uncle or your brother or your cousin that's not a lock that things are going to work out. In fact, the odds are it's going to implode on you and it's going to be worse. Get it in writing. Treat everything like an arm's length negotiation. Even if it's your best friend, it doesn't matter. Whatever. So I try to hit that stuff home because most people are very quick to, it's very funny. They're quick to form their own. It's very easy to form an LLC or a corporation or start a business, whatever that means. But the documentation that goes with it, they never do. I'd say probably 90% plus of people who formed a corporation or LLC this past year did not do a shareholder or an operating agreement. This doesn't happen. So then, when the proverbial, what hits the fan, there's nothing to rely on. So I always say, try to anticipate things in advance. What will you do if there are only 2 shareholders and you can't agree on something? What are you going to do if one person wants to leave? What do you want to do if you wake up one day and your, friend transferred all his interests to somebody else? Well, if you could take care of all this in advance, if you have a document. So I try to hit that home a lot.
So when you think, and you post regularly, how often do you post?
5 days a week.
5 days a week. That's a commitment.
Yes. It's funny. I spoke to people who've been doing this a lot longer than I, and they said that every once in a while it's okay to recirculate old stuff. So once in a while I do it. But yeah, it's a lot of work.
How much work does it take? Just curious.
Most people tell you, like, if you're going to do a month worth of videos, you should wake up on a Sunday morning and film 15 videos at once, like, in a 2-hour period or whatever it takes. I can't do that. I just don't have a lot of things I think of on the fly, or one night I'll think of something the next morning. So if I do a video between thinking what I want to say and filming it, it could take 20 minutes for a 1-minute video. I try to keep everything under 60 seconds because nobody has an attention span. There are people, I've seen people like 8-9 minute videos on LinkedIn. No one's really watching that. So I try to keep everything under a minute.
20 minutes to record and post? Is it a total 20 minutes, or there's additional time somewhere there as well?
Well, after you post, you want to engage with the people who engage with you. So I do. If some people comment, I always comment back. I always like things. Yeah, that's part of what you have to do. It's funny, I don't engage with that many. They say that if you're not posting content on social media, but you want to still stay, I guess, relevant, you should engage with other people's social media. So sometimes I do that, but I won't do that in lieu of posting my own stuff.
So LinkedIn as a lifestyle. The
reason I do LinkedIn because it works. That's what I tell people. It works. If it didn't work, a lot of people wouldn't be on it. And it's different. Like, I'm not on Facebook. I'm on Facebook personally, but I don't really post anything. And Twitter, I don't understand Twitter. Like, I leave the room, I come back, I missed 5,000 tweets, so I don't know what's going on. But for me, just LinkedIn seems to work. I think because everyone on LinkedIn is there for a reason. They will either some kind of commerce or business, or they need advice. So I think, more than taking pictures of your lunch and posting it, that's not what it's about. I think that's why LinkedIn works for the most part.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the actual content. I've seen a few different things. I've seen some really kind of practical things about contracts, and then I've seen sort of range of funny, inspiring things. And then they always come in a different T-shirt. So tell me how you think about, do you match your T-shirts to your content? How do you think about?
Sometimes I forgot what it was. I have a T-shirt that says Enron Summer Intern 1999. Okay. Now it's not a real shirt. It was like I did not work at Enron. Okay. But, I don't remember. I was talking about fraud, or and I'll wear that T-shirt for that. Like, if I have a T-shirt, if I'm talking about contracts, like, I'll wear this T-shirt maybe, or I have other T-shirts that, And so someone asked, like, do I have the T-shirt specially made? I'm like, no, I don't have any vanity T-shirts. I find them. And plenty of people ask where they can get them. So I'm like, I should be selling these T-shirts. Like, that's stupid. Whatever. Anyway, listen, it does take time to do this. It pays off. That's why I do it. It works. I would have never met you then otherwise, right?
No, look, I mean, for this alone, for you and I to meet, your year of posting on LinkedIn is totally worth it. So tell me what kind of things how you think about your content creation. Like, you try to be useful.
I would love to post every day something specific about a legal topic, a contract. But what am I going to talk about? Like, people don't want to hear that every day. I can tell, because I'll post a video about something like force majeure. I came out with a force majeure clause video like March 10th. I mean, like, so early into COVID. Like, this is going to be so important because contracts are not going to be able to be fulfilled. Things are going to happen. Like, nobody cared. Because I think it was above most people's pay grade in terms of, like, they weren't interested, But if you post, this is like the downside of LinkedIn. And I don't post this at all, but I make fun of it. Like, if you post, like, you can do it. Like, you'll get 15,000 views. It's just, I'd love to post something that I think is practical and useful every day, but it's hard to do that. And I don't think people want it. I don't think people want to read it every day.
I have some of my adventures on LinkedIn. I've probably been on LinkedIn as long as you have. And right before COVID, I kind of started doing videos, and I wanted to do videos for a long time and had my personal reservations. I'd like to give useful content, and I've been sharing content and writing for a long time and with a lot of success. But, what I find is that people really love, like, Olga's story, Olga's stories in the trenches, Olga's ups and downs, Olga's adventures in the legal world, Olga's adventures in tech world, the kind of the joy moment, the cry moment, the Olga upset moment. And has nothing to do with Olga's practice or Olga's contract lifecycle management mission. It has a lot to do with people love a good story that may not even be a professional story. People love stories about Olga and her husband, and kind of the deep conversations we have. And so it's very interesting. How do you think about this sort of more personal, some people call it more Facebook-like content on LinkedIn?
So I don't like to post that kind of stuff personally. Though I do tell personal stories when I'm trying to get a point across. I'll tell a story. It was about fake it till you make it. Okay, fake it till you make it. I don't believe. Eventually, I said, if you fake it, eventually you're going to get caught that you're faking it because someone's going to call you out. You can't really fake it till you make it. You have to have some semblance of reality in there. So I told the story. Okay, this is a good story. For whatever reason, my parents did not get me a social security number when I was born. So
they really set you up for success.
I'm born in the United States, okay? And I have 5 kids. They all had social security numbers by the time we left the hospital. That application was filled out. I didn't have one. I have one brother, and he's 4 years younger, and he didn't have one either. My parents didn't bother. And my parents, my father was a physician. It wasn't like we were living on the off the grid. It was I don't know what I was. So when I was 17 and I was graduating high school, I wanted to go to college. So I wanted to apply to college. And to apply to college, you need to put your social security number down on these applications. Well, I didn't have a social security number. And I said, I'm going to take my phone number, add 2 zeros. I'm not going to forget it. And that was my social security number, 295-328-800. That was my phone number. That was my social security number that I made it up. And I went to college on a fake social security number for 3 years. And then I decided at 19, 20, I think I should get a real social security. So I took my brother, we drove to the social security office and we got social security numbers. I could have lived off the grid totally. I was almost 20. I didn't have a social security. I could never have had one, but whatever. So I think I told that story in, fake it till you make it. I faked my social security number for 20 years. And eventually I got a real one. So I didn't So, and at first I was saying, should I even tell that story? Is that a crime? Whatever. It was 30 years ago.
It's only when you sign under perjury.
30 years ago. I was a kid. And I'll blame my parents if I ever get in trouble for it. But my point was that was a personal story that I brought into one of my into my content. But I don't ordinarily only if it's something that I think is important or something that is valuable for others. Just to tell stories about me, it's not that exciting. I want people learn from something, not just to know experience what it's like to be me.
I find it very difficult, especially because my divide between personal and professional is pretty stark. But yeah, people definitely love this. It sounds like a story. How well did the story do on LinkedIn?
It did okay. Listen, I don't know what makes things go. I know it's going viral. I've never had a viral anything. I've never, I've good content and good views and this and that, but I've never had something that had 1 million or 100,000. It's not going to happen. It did fine, but I can't gauge. And I know people go, oh, the algorithm. I don't know the algorithm, but I can't gauge how something's going to do. Actually, I can. If I throw a quote out there, I have an idea of how it's going to do. But if I make a really solid video about something that people are going to learn, it can help. It could bomb or it could do great. There's no way of telling in advance. None.
Do you actually enjoy this LinkedIn adventure? And which part? And which part do you not like?
When you're putting out 5 things a week, it's work. There's no doubt about that. I like it. All right, for a few reasons. First of all, it's introduced me to a million people I wouldn't. You, for example, a million people I never would have met, and in terms of business, it's been very good. It's been very good for me, it took a while and then it just kicked in and I don't even do a lot of I should do more. I don't do outbound, soliciting people. People just come to me, they find me or they're recommended to me from other people on LinkedIn. But I think it's a great platform. And I've been the kind of person who's had a virtual practice for the last 5-6 years. I travel a lot. So, it's been curtailed this year because of COVID, but I flew a bunch of times this year. So it's just me and my laptop. And the experience that most people are having this year about being home, and that's been my experience for the last 5-6 years. So I think LinkedIn is just I can sit in a room I sit in a room by myself 90% of the time. That's just how I work. Okay. So LinkedIn allows me to have social interactions that I never would have ordinarily had. Forget COVID, pre-COVID, you know. I have so many people I know and I've never met them. That's the amazing thing. I have gone to some LinkedIn events because that's how, you know, I've actually face-to-face meetings with certain people. But most of the people that I speak to on a regular basis or that I have some kind of communication with regularly that I've met from LinkedIn, I've never met live. I don't know if I ever will. It's just funny, you know, it's a different kind of existence.
So how do you maintain those relationships on LinkedIn that, you know, may or may not have been face-to-face, but feel real and may actually, you know, lead to business relationships?
All right. So first of all, like they say, there's like a progression. Like first you know, when you're connected to somebody on LinkedIn, then you DM, that's like giving a message, and then you get on the phone, or nowadays you can get on Zoom. And then the ultimate thing would be to meet them in person. So that's the progression of what LinkedIn or any kind of social media should do. You know, nowadays it's a little harder, but it's funny. Like before last September, I was in Chicago for Labor Day weekend. I had a wedding. So I put out like a week before, I'm coming to Chicago. And I met like 5 people in Chicago who were my LinkedIn connections. I'd spoken to maybe 1 or 2 of them I spoke on the phone. Otherwise we did. And like, it was great. Like I never would have met these people. And, you know, it took a few hours. I went to a coffee shop. A few people came in different times. I think it's important, hopefully in a post-COVID world also, I think it's important that you develop these relationships. You can figure out who you want to be closer to than not be closer to. And there are a lot of people on LinkedIn that I really don't want to deal with, but whatever. I consider myself a nice person, so I'm not going to tell them to go away. But you know, and there are some people I'll pick up the phone with every once in a while, or just I'll DM them, like, let's talk. Or, you know, a lot of them I have their personal phone contacts already, and they become friends, whatever that means, even though we've never actually met.
You mentioned COVID a few times and how you were COVID ready because you had this more of a nomadic lifestyle.
I wasn't COVID ready because nobody was COVID ready. From a work perspective, I was fairly ready. Yeah, I wasn't used to going to an office, so I was ready from that perspective. Neil Greenbaum was COVID ready. I wasn't.
Hey, Neil, I have an image of you.
I knew it was coming. Don't tell. I knew it was coming. Anyway, yeah.
Hey, you need a T-shirt that goes with it. COVID ready.
COVID-18. I'm getting that too.
Yeah, I love that. But how did COVID change maybe LinkedIn dynamics?
So what it changed for me, I got very nervous like at the end of March. So I'm like, oh my God, no one's going to have any business for me in April. And I'm going to be, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to sell hand sanitizer like everyone else. No, so I,
Hey, there's a T-shirt for that.
Right. Do you know, I have, this is terrible. I've been the attorney on more busted PPE deals than you can ever imagine. Everyone wants to make money on PPE. I'm like, yeah, I'll do your contracts. It's not going to work. I'm like, no. Like I put it, it's in my retainer. You are engaging in a highly speculative, you know, forget about like price. I'm not talking about price gouging. That I won't do. You are engaging in a highly speculative, negotiate. Like they don't work these deals. Everyone like wants to make money off PPE. But anyway. So I got very nervous. I got very nervous at the end of March. And my April was like weak. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen now? But thankfully what I did, and I'm not saying it was me, because since May, things have been fine. Real estate deals weren't going to happen. And real estate deals were always a good, even though I never like considered myself a real estate lawyer, a good part of my practice is real estate. I mean, because they close and there's money involved. And, you know, I started to not post anything about real estate transactions. I started to post about contracts, like contracts. So I said, listen, we can still do contracts. Even if we're not buying and selling anything specific, like buying and selling a business or buying and selling real estate, people still need, they're going to be doing shareholders, operating, joint venture, you know, NDAs, whatever. So I just pushed that a little bit. And I think maybe that got me through the beginning times. I mean, but I did not see COVID coming, but I think, and I didn't pivot because I'm a lawyer. At this stage of my life, I can't pivot to something totally different. But I just realized that the transactions weren't going to happen, especially something that required financing like real estate. So I started pushing contract stuff more, and all my content was in March, April, May, all my content was about contracts. Like nothing about real estate. Just
now we've seen the uptick of contracts activities in March and April. Some of it was force majeure, some of it was new contracts and renegotiation. There's all kinds of things, right? There are many reasons to have contracts activities and in good times and bad. So we definitely, and look, I mean, we're in contracts business, but we absolutely have seen kind of contracts being very important during crisis.
Right.
And many law practitioners, one way or another, whether they call themselves real estate lawyers or whatever else they call themselves, very much, pivot is probably not a right word where you kind of shift focus as opposed to completely change your business. Right. But really, contracts is something that become instrumental in COVID. So that's one of many reasons why I like your T-shirt. So tell me what it is about contracts that you love, especially when it comes to kind of marrying that to LinkedIn. So it's funny. My career started out, I was a trust and estates attorney, and it was always a little dry for me. But I don't like litigation. I never liked and I've done it. I've gone to court. It was like, I'm so nervous before a judge. Anyway, I don't like going to court. I didn't like the definitive timeframes. Like in certain jurisdictions, you have to answer within 20 days. And this, So I always geared myself more towards transactions anyway, and contracts. I think contracts it's a great mental exercise, and I like there is back and forth with other people in terms of negotiations. And I know I'm giving the webinar. I don't want to give things away. I'm not a bulldog when it comes to negotiations. I don't think that works, and I'll talk about that another time. But I just think from an intellectual pursuit and from social interaction, I just like drafting contracts, negotiating contracts, and I feel like when you start from scratch and then at the end there's a client or clients sign a contract, like something has happened, like you actually accomplished something, like somebody bought something, or people are now in partnership together, or now we have a manufacturer, we're manufacturing something. When you have contracts, like something definitive happens. Unlike litigation, which can go on for 20 years and it doesn't end, and people are getting paid, but like nothing ever happens. Yeah, no, I love contracts for that reason. And they have been a persistent theme in my career, whether I was a litigator or general counsel or anything else for that matter. I want to start wrapping up, and
Sure.
I want to leave listeners with useful things about LinkedIn. So suppose I'm just graduating from law school, or I've been practicing for a while. I'm noticing some activities on LinkedIn. I would love to start posting. You did this 30-day challenge. That's a little bit like jumping into cold water and hoping for the best. What do you recommend? Where do I start?
First of all, I wish I was graduating law school and knew this. Of course, I'm like out of law school a long time, to put it that way, a long time. First of all, I think video is the way to go. Like I said, I think video differentiates yourself far different than you can only differentiate yourself on written posts, but if your writing skills are different. Okay, fine. But like video, like if you have a different personality or, then you differentiate yourself right away. And also, like I said, the familiarity. Familiarity is very important. If I was graduating law school now, let's say, and I either working for myself or as part of my job, I was permitted to go on LinkedIn and do videos. I would post I would do what I do now. I would post every day of the week something, and I would make sure to get 2-3 videos out there a week, because that's how people are going to know who you are. And I feel that the generation behind me, who's starting now, they're at such an advantage. I mean, I graduated law school in 92. Okay, it's a long time ago. So things couldn't be more different in terms of being a lawyer now than, I didn't have a computer when I graduated law school. It was such a different existence. So nowadays, it's just the reach is incredible. So when I go on LinkedIn in the morning, if I post a video and I get, 3,000 views, I reach 3,000 people sitting in sweatpants in my home office. To me, that's incredible. Like, how can you do that any other way? So my advice to people would be do videos. The 30 and 30 is a big undertaking. But to maybe kickstart things, do 10 videos in 10 weekdays, in 2 weeks, I think that's a good way to start.
Last
but
question.
You have to start, because, I don't think anybody's naturally good at it. I certainly wasn't. I'm terrible.
Last question, and I'm kind of going into that not naturally good theme. So you look at your video, the first video, the second, the first video you make, and you're like, God, I look this way. Oh, God, I sound this way. What do you do with that?
So first of all, my first video, because I was explaining like legal concepts, they're like 3 to 5 minutes long. And that is way too, first of all, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. But if you keep them short, like to me, like 40 to 60 seconds is perfect. Okay. And just explain one concept and give one example and be animated. Don't be like, if you sit like this and you don't move your face, be yourself. I mean, most people have a personality. So I just think it's an amazing way to, first of all, and you'll improve as you do, but it's an amazing way for people to know who you are. And I think it's the whole point of social media. People know who you are. I'm not trying to be famous. That's not what people are trying to do. But like, if I am an attorney and I can help people, so the way they're going to know who I am is by, oh yeah, that's Neil Greenbaum. He does all those videos. It happens a lot that happens. And, and I just think it helps people, and people, it's funny. Like I reach out to certain people on DM, like and they go, oh, I love your content. Like I had no clue they even watched my content. Like I never see their name liking it, or I never see them commenting on it. I'm like, that's great. Like, and I could say, oh, why are you commenting on it? No, but I think it's great because that means people are getting helped and I don't even know it. Look, they don't have to be clients. If everybody could be a client, that'd be great, amazing for me financially. But the point is, like, if I'm helping these people and I don't even know about it, like that's like a cherry on top that I don't have to eat.
Yeah. Neil, always great talking to you. I learned so much by following you and having conversations with you. Definitely can't wait for the webinar we're going to be doing next week. Yeah, for everyone who is listening, definitely follow Neil. He is a huge inspiration and he has very useful content. And he is the only lawyer I know who regularly wears amazing T-shirts on videos. So for that alone, that is worth your follow. Neil, thank you so much. I hope we have this conversation again.
Thank you. Me too.